You're listening to Gone Mobile, your input and output for all things .NET MAUI and mobile.
Welcome back once again to Gone Mobile. Alan, I made myself a lovely cup of coffee. Actually, a few cups of coffee before we started doing this. I still haven't shared the video with you, but it's uploading to YouTube, so that'll...
Oh, that's right. You told me that you were working on these little bonus coffee videos that...
Well, just one. Well, and it's pretty poorly done. I'm no cinematographer, that's for sure.
Surprisingly, I'll be interested in watching it. You have converted me. I am going to do it. It's expensive as hell, but I'm getting, well, you know this, I'm getting crusty in my old age, but I'm also getting pickier.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I walk down the street frequently to Starbucks so I can work from there and I get coffee there. I'm like, this is better.
Well,
it's not great.
If you want to talk about expensive, how many coffees do you buy there a week?
A few.
Yeah. Just coffee, or do you go for like a latte or something fancy?
Usually if I'm going to go there, I'm going to have like something fancier.
Yeah. So like then it's like $8 for,
a
latte.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
that's eight. It might even be 8 US too. I don't know, but 8 Canadian, I'm sure, at least by the time you get something.
Yes. But you know what? They do a good job of it.
Sure. I'm just going to say though, you can buy your equipment for less than $8 a day.
I don't go every day.
Okay, then less than $3 a day. I don't know. I'm going to say whatever number matches what you do.
Yeah, no, you are. But I mean that the scale you have measures at like the atomic weight. So that I need
it doesn't.
You called the bean pulverizer, and the thing that drips on it that's like $500, and all it does is drip water.
Okay, you don't need that. I didn't end up buying that. I actually brought back one of my coffee machines for like when I'm feeling lazy that kind of simulates a pour over ish. Not as well as the one that I want, but I have this one, and it makes bigger batches if I have like family over or something too.
I mean, the joke I make is that John has this kettle or this teapot or I don't know, kettle.
Yeah, it's whatever kettle,
and it's got this big, long, huge spout. And my statement is, the longer the spout, the bigger the snob. Those aren't my exact words, but read between the lines.
Yeah, it's probably accurate.
So, honestly, it'd be nice if a robot could just make my coffee. That's such a bad lead-in. I'm taking your job this week.
Yeah, well, that's good. I like it. Nice little rough of a segue there, but I'm sure. Oh, actually, you know what? I hadn't. I'm just having an epiphany. We need to figure out how we can build a coffee product that uses AI, and just because it'll be like maybe not the first. I'm sure there's something out there already, but we can be like, now all you coffee enthusiasts can make better coffee because there's AI in it, which is like kind of how everything is going, right?
Well. Yeah, you get money for it.
Yeah.
AI is doing everything.
I don't know.
Clearly, we're talking about AI today.
Yeah.
But we'll get there because I'm kind of liking this idea, this AI coffee machine.
Yeah.
But like, because that was the thing. When I looked at these coffee things, John kept going, well, no, it's okay. I want a coffee machine. Like, John needs to do these multiple steps. And end to end, sure, he does the multi-threaded. It's a multi-threaded coffee process, but end to end, if he had to wait sequentially, it'd be like a 15-minute run.
Yeah.
But because he can multitask, he gets it
Depends
done.
how much you're making too. If it's just like a couple cups, it's faster than like when I do the morning for like my wife and I've got like, each want to have like 2 cups, and then it's like 40 ounces of water. And I don't know what that is in liters because my coffee thing has the line 40 ounces, and I've calculated it once and it's the right ratios and stuff. Anyway. It's not that bad.
I wanted a machine I could press a button that properly fluffed my beans or whatever it is that John says, you have to pulverize them properly, etc.
Yeah, the problem is
drips the water through. Well, the magical filter into my cup. That's all I want. I just want a button, dude. I want a button.
You can do that, but it's going to cost you way more than what you want to spend, like thousands and thousands.
No. I will spend for the automation and the quality.
Okay.
I will not cheap. But
Great.
you haven't told me that one of those
Oh, well,
things exists.
I can
You've had
find
to-
you those ones. I know they're out there. I know there's some that are okay that are out there.
Okay, so now we know you've been holding back on me again.
I didn't know what you were planning to budget like $5,000 for this, but
And I mean, it's got to have room. Like if it takes up like robot size space on my counter.
it will.
Oh well,
You
okay,
can't
it's a
have
bit
what do
different.
you can't have it all. Like
Yes, I can.
no.
It
Well,
then
no.
it-
Well, maybe
okay,
once we
well,
bring
there's a
out the
customer
AI
here.
one,
Yeah.
you can.
Okay. So we're gonna be doing that, and that's a great topic for today.
Yeah. So
Let's talk some AI.
what AI? Well, what have you done with AI?
Well, I'm doing a whole whack of stuff. I've done a whole whack of stuff. Problem with AI right now is it's like in JavaScript framework hell right now. It's like even Microsoft, I get to be like you guys, like John's involved in it, but I like to just throw him at Jon and say, you guys, there's like a new flipping framework out of Microsoft every week. You don't know what's coming. It's a semantic kernel. I understand these things are slightly different.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So anybody complaining, but just hear me out. There's like different models. There's like Phi 3. There's OpenAI. There's Azure AI, which is just OpenAI with something with stuff on top.
Mm-hmm.
There's the semantic kernel, which is like a thing on top of everything. There's like, it's crazy. Even so in mobile, the stuff I've been doing is usually like image recognition and stuff, or document recognition. So that's one I've been constantly doing. And like,
well, it's kind of funny because do you remember what was it called? I mean, I'm sure it's still there. Azure Cognitive Services. Like this was
it's been
already kind
renamed.
of a thing, right? Like this has been around. Some of this, it's not
No.
the same. I understand that, but like in a capacity, some of these functions, like functionalities, have been around, and maybe they're way better now because we have good models that are applied to them versus kind of image recognition, pre these models. Is that
Sure.
fair?
Yeah, it's getting better. Let's put it that way,
Okay.
right? Like they keep
So like
getting better.
what kind of image recognition if you're able to share?
Well, if like the ones I commonly do is like a forms recognizer, which may include stuff like passports,
Okay.
driver's license. I mean, we'll talk about barcodes in a second. That's obviously up there. Credit card scanning, like
Mhm.
anything that can help the user get data in faster. Because like I've got fat thumbs, right? So it's hard to type all this stuff in. I don't want to type it all in, man. Just
Yeah.
figure it out for me. That's what AI is for.
Yeah, that's a great application, that kind of thing, right? Because it's
Right.
just go for it.
Point your camera at it, sample the credit card, lift the data, shove it in a form. Done.
But
magic. It's awesome.
And so again, like this, I guess I'm kind of thinking of this as we used to have some of this, and like even like I think about the credit card scanning, like that used to be a thing. Like Stripe had a library for it, I think, long ago, but like it was probably not AI, at all, right? They were doing something, more. What was there was like pretty popular open CV, like image processing library, right? Like that kind of thing. Is that like kind of obsolete now? Because
I think it's come so far. Like some of this. So right now it was called Azure something forms recognizer. Now it's called Azure AI Document Intelligence, which by the way is still marked in preview.
Okay.
But it's like you use that one. So you use the preview library. That's great. So awesome. But it's so good at, you can tell it like, this is what I'm expecting to scan. You can build your own models, which I think is great because a lot of companies are still paper based, or they need to get a lot of their paper into a system.
Yeah.
Could you imagine typing that out? I mean,
well, that's what
normally
people would
hire
have
summer
done.
students.
Like, or like you do the whole like document scanning thing, and maybe you'd be able to like then have a searchable thing. But if you're trying to extract the actual fields of information, then that's still somewhat manual.
So I've been able to pull a big document, like a big kind of manifest, like thing that has to be signed. It can lift the signature.
Wow.
Shoves all of it in. It's freaking great.
Now, is this stuff like there's the library or whatever you're using is tailored already for that scenario, or you have
not
to
the one that I just specifically mentioned? We had to train that one.
Okay.
It's not cheap. Any of this online, like I think
not
there's a
cheap
way to pull it
in terms of
to run it.
Okay.
It's
Like to
expensive.
run the training or to run it just once you have the model?
Anything that goes into AI that's not like super optimized
Hey,
takes a tremendous amount of compute, and therefore
weren't
Microsoft's like,
you
bling
trying
bling.
to find a reason to upgrade some of your hardware? Wouldn't a nice new, like, you know,
Oh, nice.
4090 be a good?
Look at, see, I can't get dude to buy video games or anything, and yet he's trying to. He knows that I'm looking at a new computer,
Yeah,
and
I
you're
mean,
right. Yeah, I
you
could train a
could
model with a big.
expense that, I'm sure, even if you're going to use it for training models, right? There's all
Yeah,
those cores in there that are doing AI stuff.
yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, GPU, right? It's
Yeah.
bigger on GPU.
Yeah.
So you're right. I could. I like my video
Just to
cards, though.
save a
It's
bit
so
of
fun.
money. I mean, it's just, you're really just looking at it from a cost savings perspective.
Yeah, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. Not sold yet. Not sold yet.
So you had to train a model. So what does that process for you look like for this kind of application?
Well, it's a whole bunch of like, did I get it right? No. Did I get this right? No.
So
Right.
you're
And
basically
they've got
feeding it in images and then kind of telling it what, you know, what the
where to
extraction
look
should
at.
match.
Yeah, what to look at. Now it's pretty good. Like Azure already goes like, hey, this looks like a label and this looks like somebody's written in it. So it's pretty good at going, yeah, I think this is what you're looking at.
Okay.
But there's always like variations of forms. And then people like the handwriting is different. Let's
Oh yeah.
throw that out. It's got its own model for handwriting. It does fantastic. Well, it has trouble with some of my handwriting.
I was gonna say,
Shit,
like,
tells you
do you want to test it? Because I could give you some writing that would surely throw it.
oh, my handwriting.
I never have
looks,
been good.
It looks like I swear to God, my son writes better, and he's
Yeah.
in grade 3. So like,
Yeah.
Anyhow, it still is able to extrapolate. Okay, this somebody has chicken scratched here, so that's the label. Let's put this in.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a tabular form, right? So you might have like a bunch of check boxes,
Okay.
or right. It's able to figure that out and kind of put that data into like a dictionary or like a data table of some sort that you can, extract and do your thing on. So it's super smart. And it doesn't take a lot of work to train. It's more or less you're kind of just saying this is what to expect. This is some variations of it because, they upgrade those forms over time. So you have to give it kind of like, this is the old way, so it might be missing this. Even though what you end up getting out of intelligence, the document intelligence, is like more or less kind of a complex dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask it, does it contain this key? Okay, it does. Let's
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not. That's the funny thing. Once it lifts the field, it's not a complex UI or complicated API that to consume it. It just takes some cycles and it has to go online. So
Yeah.
Azure's like bling bling.
And then
Let's tune up the
you're sending
compute.
the images up. So is this like you're
Yep.
doing this on a mobile device, or is this a?
Yeah. So it's interesting how I've chosen to do that because a lot of the samples you'll see out there is like pointed at a blob store image, right? And let AI have its thing. But what I tend to do is you can still upload streams, but I have, it's not hard to upload streams, but I noticed a lot of people don't do that. So I've got like a camera, but I activate the camera. I lift that image every second-ish.
Okay,
I
and
think
you're
I got it down to
uploading
about
that
2 seconds.
image as quickly as you can.
Right. And then I stop scanning. I run the AI through it. And if I find something, a piece of data, it gives you binding, like a binding box and everything.
Yeah.
Or bounding box.
So you can overlay like the box on the image.
That's
and
what
show
I'm seeing.
That's cool. Are you doing that on like
Right.
the live feed too, or?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feed it back. If it's fast enough, sometimes if there's a delay or I've seen a lapse in the photo, which isn't really hard to do.
Yeah.
You don't need AI to see that the photo has changed on you quite a bit. Then I might say, okay, well, you've moved it. Good job, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Or once I found it, sometimes I just stop the camera at that point. I say, this is the data we found. Is it correct? Right. So you can really pick your poison. For the credit card stuff, it's usually that's the only time where I'm trying to generate the bounding box over top of things because it's quick.
Do you do any like what kind of resolution of image do you have to send it to be accurate?
Well, that was also a learning scenario too, because obviously the iPhone can take some incredibly
you're not
dense
sending
photos.
like a 20 meg image up every second, probably.
Well, at first I was like, let's see what this thing can do. I'm on Wi-Fi. Let's ship it. I mean, it's also easy to compress images, right? But I sent it, and Azure was like, "Dude, what do you? This is huge. Get lost." So it would
Yeah.
error out right away. I was like, oh, okay, that's fair. So I compressed it down. I compressed it down quite a ways. And it can recognize like junk and
Yeah.
do a really good job of it. Now, the funny part is that junk, I mean, even at an image that's tiny resolution, it's not really junk. Like human eyes can read it very easily. So AI is really good at doing it.
Yeah.
So eventually I got the image down to like, I think like 8% is where I found the sweet spot. 8% of the quality of the original image gets me still a
Wow.
good result.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
That's pretty amazing.
The difference is when I do the overlay. So when I freeze it, when we're doing testing to make sure it grabbed the right fields, I would take the image. So the big one, the big image, the big forms. Here's the image I sent. I'd obviously keep that in memory. I'd get back the data and I'd overlay it and then display that to the user or to me doing testing and say, this is what I found. Okay, great. Yeah, good. So doing that live on a live feed, that was harder. For a credit card, piece of cake.
Yeah.
Even though credit cards have lots of painful points.
Well,
did you know that they do the weird numbers and the reflective surfaces to really screw cameras up?
Yeah.
Never really put a lot of thought into it. I knew they did it for that reason, but I never put a lot of thought into it.
Like, and this is the whole point though of applying AI to it, right? Because it's more like just from this isn't going to be quite right, but like from a human like perspective, right? Like you said, you throw an image that's pretty low quality, and like we can kind of read that with our eyes. And I know it's not the same thing, but in a sense, it's kind of like that's the point, right? Is to try and develop training these models to kind of view it, from almost a similar perspective, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, here's the funny part too, is I tried, I was like, surely lifting a credit card is not hard. So
Yeah.
I tried some optical character recognition,
mm-hmm.
which turns out that has a pretty tough time with credit card numbers.
Okay.
So they got that weird font.
Well, I thought the font was supposed to help, right? Because it's very specific.
If you have OCR that understands that, right? So I'm doing just a simple OCR. Here's an image.
Okay, yeah.
What do you
it's
see?
not trained or tailored for credit cards. It's just OCR.
Right. And you had to get a good, first of all, you have to deal with the reflective nature of the device, which AI is trained to do that somehow. Right. I didn't have to get good. Like I could have like a blur right over top of it that would give me a hard time reading it.
Yeah.
And somehow it magically went, screw it, I can see it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, this is I don't know how it did it.
Well, it's the that's the purpose of it. It's built to like see those patterns, and with enough like training and reinforcement, right? It's going to be able to do that because it's pixels.
It'll be able to do enough if statements to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was really good at it, but OCR was not good at it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to take this a different route. Who cares about the cost? So,
and then, I guess like obviously from a Azure perspective, they're not in any position where they're trying to do this, but like, I wonder how far off we are with being able to have a model that's very purpose trained like that runs right on the device.
Well, that's the interesting part. So there is a lot of on-device versus online only requirements. And I think it really depends on the size of your model.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they still find ways to collect money because it'll be like, you're using the model. It's licensed. So you pay for it.
Yeah.
Right. Fine. That's fine. I get it. But there's certain models that it would be nice if you could do it in offline scenarios. So Azure AI, at least this document intelligence, at the moment, I have not yet figured out how to bring these models locally. Apparently it is doable with certain, I don't know, trade-offs. I'm not sure what they are yet. That's still a work in progress. That's something to come back to though. But you're right. It would be nice to be able to just, run them online or run them on the device. Cause you'd think, well, that saves you on bandwidth. That saves you on time.
Yeah.
Cost, the whole 9 yards, right?
Well, and so that's kind of, we don't have this in the notes, but you just kind of, made me think about like one of the interesting things with AI is just all the energy that it is causing the world to use. And if you think about that like on device versus online, like that transmitting of the data, the having it somewhere in blob storage, doing like sending it around, like that's got to be at scale reasonably significantly more energy use than saying like, here's a model that I run locally on an optimized chip on the device to do
Right.
this, right? So that is kind of
Well-
another aspect of it that obviously we're super early days still, but maybe that becomes kind of a thought in eventually at some point.
I would
Probably
hope
not,
so.
but
I mean, at least we're using power for better things than Bitcoin mining these days.
yes,
But
yeah,
still,
absolutely.
like Bitcoin mining was destroying. I remember during the
and
pandemic, it's
NFCs
just
and all that stuff too.
eating the internet
Yeah.
power. I couldn't buy a video card. You know how many games I wanted to play during the pandemic?
Oh yeah, that was.
And everyone's like, we're using the GPUs for Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
And then, great, thanks, guys. Whatever. So, speaking of the on-device stuff, I mean, barcode scanning
Mm-hmm.
is built into Azure Vision, or sorry, who I said Azure, Apple Vision.
Yeah,
That's like their AI
they've had
image
stuff
stuff
for a while actually.
They have, but it was.
But this is
I
I guess it's different now. It's probably a model that is on their device.
Apparently, it's
versus,
on device.
Okay.
I've been doing some testing offline, and it just kind of works.
Because even like way back in the day when I did the zebra crossing net mobile, which is the Xamarin Forms one, did I ever? I think at one point, I don't know if I ever put it in there. I think I did, where you could opt and say like, no, I don't want to use the cross-platform like zebra crossing implementation. I want to use the platform specific thing. And Apple had APIs for doing some of that recognition. They had some where you could like detect faces and people. Like there was a few different parts of that, but I guess this is a different set of APIs again.
Slightly. I mean, it's still Apple Vision. You still
and maybe they'll
instantiate the same stuff.
Maybe they'll retrofit the old APIs to like use the new better stuff under the hood. Who knows? But it's on device for that kind of thing makes sense because that's been something that's been around forever, is just barcode scanning.
And it works awesome.
Yeah.
It works like just awesome. Most of the stuff that Apple does in that field just works awesome. And Google has one too.
Yep.
They have their
There's a
Google
Firebase
Android
thing.
X Firebase.
There was Firebase ML
Firebase
stuff.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that works great as well. That one I think needs online. It has a barcode specific thing, but it seemed to be jumping for data.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not.
Might just be sending it back.
Well, it doesn't cost anything. So like,
no, I know, but it was probably just just logging your data because hey, we want to see what you're doing.
Well, that's what Google does, right?
Yeah,
they're masters. Hey, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
It's free.
Well, I mean,
but we know everything about you.
It's paid, but just paid by your information as opposed to dollars.
Yeah, we sold it. We sold it on you. That barcode, it's not your property anymore. So, like zebra crossing, it had a good run.
Oh yeah, no,
we've been using.
Oh,
it for
I'm
years.
so happy. So like, I ported, or I wouldn't say it was a port. I like redid a thing in Maui. And it's an abandoned project again. And like, sorry if you're using it and want it to not be. But there's a bunch of other options out there. There's, other options that like did what I was doing, but better with zebra crossing, like the cross-platform code. There's other options now, I think, that are using like the platform APIs as well. Like go use those. I never did want to maintain this thing. I only ever built it because we had enough customers that were like, I can't migrate. What do I do? I need, zebra crossing. I'm like, okay, fine. Here is just start using it and somebody else will come along and do a better job. So what I should probably do is take that NuGet and that repo and pick a spiritual successor and like point it at that.
We have libraries of the week for that too, which we'll get to.
Great. Yeah.
Because this exists out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Scanning the barcodes. There's a couple libraries that do it well. It's a nice API.
How, and obviously this is going back to the Azure, the document intelligence stuff, but like how well does their SDK work in a Maui app, their C# SDK? I'm assuming it's just like .NET code, right? They're not doing like special UI on the platforms.
Yeah, it's just the standard. There's a camera view. I tried the community toolkit one and I just have it snap I'd control the snap, ship it off. It's just a .NET API for what was it? I was using document intelligence for that as well, for the credit card scanning.
Yep.
and there you go. Here's your stream.
Yeah, it does.
Figure it out.
It doesn't look like they have like any platform, like mobile platform specific stuff yet either. Like not even at the native
No.
layer. So,
but you don't really.
no,
Well,
I just it's one of those things like, you know, maybe eventually they're like, hey, we could add value by giving you the API that does the camera view that shows the barcode over, you know, like there's stuff like that I know in the past they did some of that with cognitive services, and then it was like, well, if you're using it on Xamarin, you know, somebody might do a binding to those, and it's just like I like the approach of like, just no, let's just give you the APIs, and if somebody wants to build on top of that, great, but otherwise, like,
yeah,
just use it.
and it's great because like it's easy to switch, like getting the camera image now in Maui and Xamarin Forms. It was pretty easy. So you had written some streams, and I don't know, a whole bunch of people are doing it right now.
Oh yeah,
like just a camera view and stuff, and it's not hard to lift an image anyways.
no, this
it.
came up again, even just like today. There was a customer that was doing something. I think in Forms they were using like the Windows camera app somehow. I don't know if they were shelling out to it or something they were using was shelling out to it, and then apparently something in Windows changed, and there used to be like a button, a preview button, and then it doesn't work anymore like in Windows 11, and it's like, it's not the Maui thing, it's just the camera app did something different. So I'm like, well, but there's all these other options. Like, you don't have to shell out to this thing. You can have a camera view right in your app. Like, just
Right
use
there.
that instead.
People, that sounds like for another Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Technology stuff. It's just, yeah. I guess they had to do what they had to do. Why? I don't know.
So this intelligence thing, and I hate to have this sound like it's almost like an ad for the Azure thing. That's not the intent here. I didn't even know this thing existed until you started talking about it now, and I kind of been looking at the docs and stuff. I'm like, this is really cool.
It is. It for big businesses that can afford it and have the services, because it does cost a pretty penny.
So what would it cost like to scan a form?
Well, I can't give exact. The one company I did it for,
it is right. It's like, it's hard to always have the exact number,
but it's not cheap. But it's a cost, like anything.
But it's a business. Like, do you want to pay a person like to spend 10 minutes to enter this form, or do you want to, you know, pay 50 cents to have the thing do it for you?
Well, and the other cool thing about it is that, like, we used to hire summer students back in the day. Did you ever do data entry stuff?
I personally didn't, but I used to work at the school board here with the government, right? And there was people that they would hire to come in and do that, and I had to help set up stuff so that they could enter data.
And it sucks. Like, I've done it for the government at one point, and you know, other exciting things always happen in government offices. But when you were doing that data entry, oh my God, I don't think I've ever been so like brain numbed.
And at the point that you're like 5 hours into it, you're not doing it, you know, you're not the best, you know, precision data enterer at that point, I'm sure. So like
at that point, Jon, I may as well have been taking the keyboard, picking it up and rolling my face across it. There was no data accuracy anymore.
So I wonder too how, and I guess it's not like, I wonder if you could almost overlay like another model that's like, once you have the data captured, like it's no longer the image part. It's just like, as it's entering text, it's like, oh, like this word is almost correct, but like the thing didn't spell it quite right. And we know,
and start pulling it out.
Yeah. And start being like, looking, you know, pulling out the possible errors and having like someone confirm it, or, you know, just having enough of a model that's like, no, obviously this word is, you know, this word, and it's not the word that's spelled wrong. That isn't a word. That's one character got, you know, parsed incorrectly. I don't know.
Well, if did you ever do multilingual apps back in the day?
I've attempted to start making pool math multilingual.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's true. I do remember that. But so I've had a lot of multilingual big apps. They have to use it.
Well, and a lot of things are like there's regulations and stuff too, right? Actually, I did do some of that because when I was still at the school board, some of the laws came, you know, into effect that certain things had to be multilingual. So
must be francophone. Must be.
Yeah.
So I had to do. This company was behind. they had gotten big enough. The government said you have to do this, or you're getting. I don't know. I think back then, like we're talking very early 2000s, it was like you got fined or something or whatever. So the goal is that first of all, we had to get all those strings out. Let me tell you, regular expressions could not help.
Oh, yeah.
I did. So basically we had to get all those translations into like another app. So it was mind numbing. I was like, oh man, this really, really. But then what I did was once we had it in a database, we had like keys, categories,
Mhm.
pages, etc. Took all those keys, shoved it through Google Translate, which may very well have been the first semi AI-ish type thing. And then you get translations back. Now, once I put them in front of actual Quebec French speaking
Yeah,
people, they
they're
were
like,
like,
this is absolutely
dude, what
terrible.
is this?
Yeah.
They're like, the context is wrong. The order of words is wrong. I'm like, well, man, then quit being a cheap ass and hire somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do? My French is like, it's several years removed. So like, I'm not going to be of help here, but it was a good attempt. But now when we go fast forward now, almost 25 years, apparently it's really stupid good now.
Like
Like to the
Google
point,
Translate even?
well,
Or just
all
like
of
all
it.
of them? Well, that's what I was just
Right.
kind of looking. I'm like, surely there's, also an Azure thing to translate, and there is.
Yep. Well, there's all the hype, I guess last year was you could talk into a phone
Yeah.
and it would take it like text to speech and then, or sorry, speech to text.
Yeah.
And then that would take in the text in whatever language you're speaking. It would go, oh, you're English, and go, okay, who are we talking to? And you'd say, well, I want this to come out in French, and it would do its thing and it would speak it back out in French. You're like, damn,
Yeah.
that's pretty sweet. So now I can go to Quebec because, do you ever go to Quebec?
I have. I mean, it's
Okay,
not
well,
like a regular thing I do.
so I do tend to go
But
to
you're
Montreal.
closer.
Yeah, I'm only about 5 hours away
Yeah.
from Montreal. So Montreal's good. They have a lot of English speaking people. So if you say you
And
speak
bagels.
English, they'll be like, yeah, the smoked meat.
Yeah,
Dude,
well, I
smoked
know.
meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. I would go back for that.
So if I go there, normally they're not too upset about it. And they're like, oh, he's a stupid, Ontario guy. Great. And they'll speak English to me. Not a problem. If you go to Quebec City, sorry if there's any Quebec City listeners, but you're not really friendly to English people. So now I have a freaking app. I can go blah, 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 blah. And at the other end, it can go poopity poppity. Here's some French.
I'm guessing even have you used the Chat GPT app?
I have. I haven't done it for that.
Have you used like the voice to text input feature of it, like the conversation part of it?
I have not.
Oh, it's mind-blowingly good. And I'm only using like the free tier models too. And I bet you could use it for that too, because you just like press the record button and then it's like starts and then starts recording and you just talk to it and it's always like perfect. It doesn't screw up. And I do half the time now trying to use Chat GPT for stuff, for like any kind of AI, because I don't know about you, but I started, and I still am a bit having a hard time kind of retraining my own muscle to use that more in my own work. Because like we have this tool, right? Like use it, and I see some people that are just everything that they do is going through this, and maybe that's a bit extreme. But there's so many opportunities that I have to think about and kind of remember, like, oh, if I did this through like ChatGPT, for instance, it's gonna get me what I want. And obviously it's a tool. You have to still be careful. Sometimes often it's wrong. But if you know how to vet it, it can be a huge time saver. So it's kind of, I've been working to try and just develop the reflex to kind of say, like, let's start by using that. And it's been, when I remember, it's just like just perfect.
Well, here speaking of that, I do a lot of documentation is coming out of AI for me nowadays,
Okay.
because I suck at writing docs, and it'll just be like, this is what I think you want to do, and it'll get it wrong for a little while, and then it starts getting it right, and you're like, where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so some of the stuff I've been doing in open source,
Mhm.
it would autocomplete like the samples. which saves you so much time, right? But it's still a tool. I still had to teach it. No, what is this? What is this? Right?
Yeah.
Like training a dog. So I got through that, and that was all great. But even something, this is going to sound bad. So I got my 8th MVP, Microsoft MVP the other day. I was very happy. Thank you to
Yay.
everybody. That's awesome.
Congrats.
So I went to put it online because, I want a little bit of, acknowledgement or whatever. And I wanted to say thank you. So I went in LinkedIn because, that's the professional place to go. And I started typing and I was like, man, this is terrible. And I've been doing like the politics long enough you still do your manager speak. I'm just over it at this point. You still have to be nice. I don't. So I'm a little bit
I'm
raw
just
in how I say
intrinsically
things.
nice.
What's that?
I'm just intrinsically nice. I guess I'm more Canadian than you.
Oh, very. I'm intrinsically a jerk. So, which I'm fine with, by the way. I've had, it's just the way it is. So this thing, I was like, okay, well, this is a little bit rough. It's not quite, I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. So LinkedIn on your posts, it has like do you want to AI this? Yeah, I do. Let's see what it tells me. Oh my God. I was like, yeah, I'll use that.
It's like,
It
that's
made it
great.
sound so professional. I was like, oh my God, I sound like a friggin' genius with this. This is okay.
Yeah.
But it also saves time because then I can just point form. So what I've been doing now is just point forming stuff and saying, make this sound professional.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude.
Make this sound like a professional pirate, and then it's perfect.
Well, and you can do stuff like that.
Exactly.
There's an AI out there. I remember where you can make it sound like a jerk.
That's any AI, right? You just tell it basically like ChatGPT will do it if you just like, give me this response. Make it like a real, jerk,
Oh, I didn't know
back.
that.
Oh yeah.
There was a funny site that I found a while ago that you could say like professional, passive aggressive, fully aggressive.
I think
it was like this is
all
amazing.
they're doing is like adding, they've crafted whatever part of the prompt that they're just adding to, right? Which is kind of the funny part of a lot of this AI stuff. It's really like when you see like things tweaked because you're getting the wrong result or something, and then so somebody like, fixes it. They're really just like adding more to the prompt or crafting how, you're asking the prompt at that part of it, like beyond just your own input. And then that's what helps kind of tailor it to get better. Right. So same idea. Yeah.
Well, actually, you know what I was jealous of? You guys now in the .NET-MAUI repo have like a bot that goes through and figures out, first of all, have they signed anything? That's existed in one form or another before, but it's optimized now. And it's like, yeah, I think you're talking about one of these issues. And you're like, you've been holding out on me, Jon. What is that? Where is that? Is that? I want that.
It's a new thing that's, I think eventually will get rolled out pretty broadly. I don't know. Like I'm not.
Oh, so you're holding out. You are holding out.
Well, we had to ask somebody to get access to it to put it on our repo is all I know. I wasn't the one who went and figured out, who to ask and how to do it. So it's,
you have no idea how jealous I am.
It's so nice. But to be fair, like on GitHub, that's been one of the things that I've forever been like, why are they like, you look at Stack Overflow or something and it's like, oh, are you sure that, or a lot of systems, like, are these things related? Right. And maybe they're not done well with AI yet or whatever. But I've always wondered, like, why doesn't GitHub do something that would be such a helpful tool for, repo maintainers to have when new issues get started, like head them off before they're duplicates, right? Like give people, like, I think what I remember hearing, again, this is not an official hat on knowing anything about what they're actually doing, is that it might be initially kind of expensive to have it at the time where people are typing, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like right now it just, like you said, it replies and it's like, hey, here's similar issues, and it's like similarity score, and okay, so go click on those. And at the very least, even if you don't as the submitter, like when we go look at an issue, we can more easily see, because we have like, we have over 3,000 issues in the repo. So,
and a lot of them are duplicates.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of them
that's
are.
a fact.
Yeah, but it's just like no human can
some of these
comb through those all and figure out, okay, well, here's the 10 duplicates for this new issue that got opened, right? So,
oh, you mean you guys are working, because people say you're not, which is nonsense. But the amount of issues you get now, I tend to get them through email. I don't know why people can't just do the issue on freaking GitHub. At least I've got an autoresponder for that now. If it comes, I
It's
press a button.
Go
Like,
file it
email
on
them.
GitHub.
Right. But having that, because it's not just doing a keyword search, it's like intelligently
Yeah.
trying to understand what some of these people say. And you're like, I don't even understand it. And it's like, yeah, I think you're talking about this. And I've gone through, because I watched the .NET-MAUI repo. And sometimes the issues, I'm like, what did you just ask for, dude? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's like, I think you're talking about these. And I was like, well, I'm glad it figured it out.
Yeah.
I don't even know what dude's saying.
Well, and it's only doing it off titles right now too, I think. Like eventually I'm sure they'll get the capacity to do it off the full issue body too.
Are you sure?
Well,
It didn't look like it.
The reply it gives is like, that I find similar issues based off the issue title. Like it says it in its own like reply.
It's pretty intelligent about it.
And you can thumbs up and thumbs down, right, reactions on its comment and it's apparently using that to help like, get better, right? Like are
you
these
do
similar?
remember that
No.
that doesn't always work.
Oh
well,
no,
right?
for sure. Even the one
Because,
I'm looking
like,
at, somebody thumbs down, I'm like, are you just doing that because you're annoyed at the bot doing this, or are you doing it because you're actually like trying to give good feedback? Probably the annoyed thing.
I want it done faster. I want it done.
Yeah.
If there's still open issues, then I want it done. Give me a vote. But like it's super helpful, right? It gets rid of the amount of cruft. Sometimes answering these questions, like even this sounds bad, but I get this so frequently. There's somebody bugging me right now, and I'm like, dude, you have to give me a repro.
Yeah.
If I could just have the AI say, dude, it's in the requirements to submit an issue here, but people just check that or put in something stupid, and you're like, this isn't even what I need. To have a bot just go, you're being stupid. We're closing this, or you've got 3 days to fix it, or we're closing this. Like, I don't mind if it's passive aggressive, because I got better things to do in life.
We had
than
stuff like
diagnose
that. I
things.
think they changed the automations that were running. I don't know if it's back again, but we had at one point like you'd add a label that's like needs info, and it'd comment and be like, hey, like give us some info, and if you don't, we're gonna close it, within this many days.
I still have that, but it required sometimes reading these long posts, and people sometimes put like that in the kitchen sink, but none of it is helpful.
Yeah.
It's like, we're doing this, push notifications is the common one, right? We're doing this on the server. We don't know why this is happening. I'm like, okay, you realize that I write client code for this. I specifically say that. So send me the client code. If I could just have AI going, yeah, that's a server code, buzz off.
Yeah.
You know how helpful? Just save me being a bitter old jerk and just do it for me. That's all I want. Or people get smarter than filing their issues. That'd be much better, but
yeah.
I can live with the AI being passive aggressive. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing that I used, talking about like, almost more consuming AI, I guess.
Okay.
Have you ever written a Roslyn analyzer?
I have. Well, no, source generators.
Yeah,
more or less
similar,
the same thing. But
similar.
yeah,
It deals with the same kind of like inputs, right, and syntax
Yeah.
and all the abstract,
the fun,
tree and
all
everything.
the fun.
It's not super intuitive how to do it. Like the APIs are fine. It's like, here's the code, like here's the syntax tree, like go figure out if it applies to your situation, and then you can write like the code fixer equivalent for it, right, to actually suggest like, hey, if you want to fix this, click the button and it'll do it. So I've in the past attempted it quite a while ago, and I'm like, there's like, how source gen's kind of the same if you get into enough details. Like, how do I know the right thing that I want to actually look for in the Roslyn like syntax tree, So
Yeah, no, it's tough.
In this case, it wasn't that bad. I probably could have figured it out manually. So I ended up writing an analyzer and code fixer to look for any of our different tests that were not categorized. Because so what we've started doing is trying to fan out a bunch of our UI tests so that they're running in parallel, and we're splitting them up in categories. And we could have done it a different way, but one of the things that we wanted to achieve is like some categories are a little bit more inherently flaky, and so like let's kind of lump those together. And then, if that test run fails, we can kind of start narrowing down like, okay, like, is this a real problem, or is it just this one kind of group is always a little flaky? Anyway, want to make sure that we all have categories on them. And so I'm like, well, let's write an analyzer and it can give us a warning or an error if you try and build with a test with no category. So I'm like, hey, Copilot, can you do this? And it's just like, yep, here you go. And the code was like,
was it 1-to-1 basically? Like, were you able to copy and paste that and literally have it run?
Basically, yes.
Oh.
It was so impressive. I've used Copilot in VS and stuff before, and to varying degrees of success. It really obviously depends on the problem space, but that I was super impressed with. And then what I started with was like, it gave me the code to look for the attribute on a method that was marked as a test method. And I'm like, well, that's great, but you can also put a category on a class and it applies to all the methods. So can you change that for me to also check if the, class that the method is in has the category instead?
Oh, look at that.
Yep, here you go. And it's just like, oh, and then can I have the...
Did it do it as the incremental stuff? Oh, no.
Yeah, because I think
was it the newer format?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it's like, okay, that's great. Now can you write the code fixer for it? Because, I want to be able to have the code fixer too. Yep, here you go, right? Like it's a pretty easy analyzer, so it's not that crazy, but I think it would do well in many cases if you give it a good prompt and tell it what you're actually trying to achieve. So that was kind of a mind-blowing moment. And I've been getting, like I said, trying to get better at using it for more cases. I had another, what was the other one? It was a case where it's like, it was some complicated logic. Fine, I can do it, but it would have taken me a little bit of time. Oh, it was my font scaling stuff.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I have the font scaling. I made this like markup extension that I can use in Maui that I can say the font size is like 16. And then I want to have that automatically scaled based on some like, global font scale setting. But then I that was easy, did that. And then I'm like, I want to also know, or I want to add a kind of a modifier. Like, sometimes if you have font in a certain area, you're like, if I let this blow up to like 200%, it's just going to destroy the layout. Like, and it doesn't need to be 200, like 200% would be ridiculous here. So I wanted to add like a sort of, almost like how exponential or not, the scaling is going to be applied in this specific case. So just basically a percentage. Like I want it to be like 50% of the font scale. And then it's like, but if it's small, I don't want it to scale down that much, right? I only want, it's all these conditions. I'm like, I can figure this out, but I'm like, hold on. Can you give me, it's like, yep, here you go, math dot, pow, all that. It's just like, oh, that was a really nice way to do it. And it just worked first time. And it's like these kind of cases where they're not, like, you still have to know how to do it, right? I think that's one of the pitfalls is like people are like, oh, it's going to be able to do everything. Like, no, you still have to review the code and know what it's doing and understand
Don't take away. I'm about to say something spicy. Does that mean the product managers can replace us by writing code?
Yeah, right. Exactly, right?
No, you still got to write good stories.
Yes. So yeah,
come at me, bro.
It's a tool, but it's one of those things that in that case, I could have spent probably 15 minutes just really thinking through the logic of it, or I spent 10 seconds and it gave me what I wanted,
which is good.
Yeah,
because to post qualify what Jon said. Jon is a perfectionist. So I remember him talking to me about this exact thing. And he's like, have you done this before? And I was like, yeah, the good thing is that the UI people, usually I work with like a UI team. I've had that just where I get in niche markets. That's where I've got people that do that. Thank God, because I suck at it. But they have like magic font sizes that they generally tend to pick, and their UI can usually grow to the blind people. Like my mom, for example, I call her blind. She's not blind. My apologies if I've offended anybody, but she'll put the font size up huge and it'll break a whole ton of apps, which is what was happening to you, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
People running it in large font size.
It was part of that. And partly like people users are the best, right? They're like, Yeah, my phone is
sucks.
set to like my system-wide setting is set to like a big number, which means like my layout on my app is a little bit reactive in the sense that like if there's enough room, it'll show these like little tiles I have on the home screen. It'll show like them in columns. And so usually on a phone, if your font's reasonable, you get 2 columns and stuff kind of fits nicely. Well, if you crank up your font size, it's like I can't fit that data in that width. So now I'm going to just put 1 column, and now you might have to scroll a bit too because the font's bigger. So people are like, yeah, I don't want to change my system settings because I can't really see in apps, but I want that to all fit in the 2 columns on the main screen. It's like, well, but if you couldn't see the font in other apps, like the way to make it fit is to have the font smaller. Like it's physics at this point. Like it just doesn't work. So you're okay with like you getting your magnifying glass out just for that app? Like, yeah, that's fine. I just don't want it to fit. So I wanted to introduce the thing in the app so you can say, okay, yes, in this app, I only want the font scale to be 80%, and that will bring it down from the system-wide scaling that gets applied as well.
You could say you were delighting users. Microsoft.
Yeah. So
it's actually a cool idea.
It works quite well. The only thing that doesn't is I haven't. I'm sure there's a good way to do it. It doesn't like adapt when you change the setting. Like you kind of have to kill the app and go back in.
Oh,
yeah, I know it's not great.
I don't actually think there's an event you can listen to for that personally.
Well, I might. I mean, it's a global app setting, right? So if I just notified all, if on it, whatever the visible thing is, I notified all the properties that they're changed, like in theory, all the bound font things I think should change. I don't know. I'd have to play with it. I didn't get that far.
It's not perfect yet then, John.
No, it's not. But I put a little note on there that's like, you got to kill the app and open it again if you're going to change this.
Well, I mean, as long as it's documented, I mean, nobody will read it.
Yeah.
But it's a good start. You can say like, this is coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Yeah.
So have you done anything else cool with AI?
What else? I started looking at, so there's a new OpenAI library, client library from Microsoft finally that like works with the Azure, counterpart of it, right?
Yeah, their big massive wrapper of bringing together all the AIs. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
It's not. I'm not even. I don't know if you're talking about semantic kernel. I'm just talking about the Azure service. So like so for the pool app again, one of the things that we've been kind of looking at is can we create what's the assistant, I guess is the API I'm using. Can we create
Copilot?
an assistant? Well, it's OpenAI stuff, right? So like there's OpenAI assistants, there's a few different parts of their API, and that's one of the things. And so we're like, can we create an assistant that we can give a prompt to that's basically like, here's the current snapshot of my pool's test results. Like, what should I do? Right.
Okay.
So the app helps you do that. If you go look at all the levels, you're like, oh, my pH level is this. And we're like, oh, well, we think it should actually be in this range. Here's, which of these chemicals do you have on hand or want to go buy? And then this is how much of it you should add to change the number, right? But that's all very much like going into the app, clicking through and being like, okay, I want to adjust this and following, that kind of calculator almost aspect of it. So we're like, well, what if we just
tell me what to do?
Just tell me what to do, right? And like for all the things, which actually works pretty well. If again, you've given it the right, prompt and set of information. So started experimenting with that. And all it is really, it's just a REST, API wrapper basically, right? So I'm, talking to my server through my own API, because you're not going to do this directly on the client unless you want someone to steal your API key and use it for themselves. And also, why is it costing me this much money? So definitely don't do that. But from the server side, it's just like go, formulate the prompt based on some template that we have, which then gets sent to the assistant that we have like already given the right documents and other context to. And then, it just spits it back. And I've started doing it in kind of like a chat, like API or AI, or not AI, AI in the brain, UI.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's just like a conversational thing. But the challenge there is, and I think this is going to be something that's just generally a challenge, and we've seen cases of it, right? Like, do you see the whole Air Canada thing where
No.
somebody like asked their AI chatbot, like, can I get a refund for this scenario? And it's like, yep. And then
Oh.
they went to go like actually try and get that to happen, and Air Canada's like, no, that's not our policy. And they're like, well, but the bot told me it was, and they took it all to court, and the person won, which is fantastic.
Mm.
So like, you are responsible for what your model tells your customers, right? So on one hand, like, this is a cool idea, but on the other, what kind of liability do you have now that maybe it told them to do something that wasn't correct?
Yeah. So you have to record all the stuff that it's deciding
So
on.
that's part of it. Yes, you have to
Yeah.
record all the stuff because you need to know that. But then, like, I don't know, it's just that whole space of like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable. I'm comfortable about doing more than, like, I don't know if I want to allow a fully interactive assistant at this point where you can, reply, right? But
Yep.
maybe just to control and say, like, here's the test results, if with very specific prompts, here's like the suggestion, and with huge disclaimers that are like, this is an
So
AI thing, we're do the whole legal thing where it's like, we're not responsible for anything that goes wrong kind of stuff, which isn't necessarily going to protect you, but
do you basically string concatenate that onto the reply from the bot then?
yeah.
But this may be incorrect, so don't use it.
Yeah,
Or
right.
we're
And
not
then they're like,
liable.
well, why am I even using it then? Right. Like, so how do I, yeah, I don't know. That's a big part of the challenge, I think, at this point anyway.
So I've been doing a couple things. I wanted to do some motion detection for a bunch of things I'm working on. So I built a red light, green light prototype. So it's like the stream, it figures out movement and goes, that guy moved,
Mhm.
right? So it'll figure out two people. So my kids have been playing it. That's been fantastic. But I was working on that for other things. But I've been working with one of these things I am allowed to talk about. Nobody will get me sued if I can get the damn thing up.
Maybe put your disclaimer
So
up.
this is a mole tree camera
Ooh, fun.
by a company I do some work with. Pretty cool looking, right?
I can barely see it. It's so camouflaged.
Oh, wow, Jon. Wow, dude. These things are pretty jiggy. They do some really cool things. Can't talk about everything they do, but they have some onboard AI. They're kind of like trail cameras. You put them out,
Just
sees a deer,
record only when it sees something interesting, basically.
right? And then it ships it home to say, I saw something, right? And it sends a video. The AI analyzes it, goes, that's a deer. It's too young. It's too old. Right. And then we start sending out notifications. Our app gets involved. It's pretty cool. And these things will last like forever in the bush. They've got big batteries where you can put solar power on them. They're awesome. Working with them is cool. They're doing some real cool things that are coming.
And you
next
go
few
and
years.
like sync up with it. Do they have models that are like cellular enabled too?
Yep. Yeah, they're doing some wicked stuff. There's some wicked stuff in the next few years. Can't talk about it. It sucks, but it's all AI based. It's going to be awesome. So this thing, like I said, right now it detects deers. It can tell you if they're too young, which, I don't personally hunt.
Yeah.
I've shot a turkey. That's about it. And I didn't shoot the turkey well. It kind of blew up when I hit it at a range. But anyhow, it'll detect all that stuff and say, this is too young. You're not allowed to kill it, which that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Is there?
And that's some.
But on the other hand too, like, what if it gets that wrong? It's like, yeah, it's fine. I guess you're still responsible, right? Like you're the one pulling the trigger.
Well, to be honest, I feel like the trail cameras are a bit cheating anyways, but everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure how the laws work. I know in Canada, if nobody knows, does anybody care? They probably should, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how it works, to be honest.
I don't either.
I only know about here's the thing that I'm programming.
Yeah.
And these things are awesome. Hopefully I get to talk more about it in the future, stuff that's going on there. But yeah, and they're doing it on board, which is the other cool part.
Yeah.
Because again, any of that document intelligence stuff you're doing, if it has to go to the server, Buckle up, boys. It's
Yeah.
going to cost you some pennies.
Well, and for an application like that where there might not be even a service signal available, even if you had,
Yep.
the capability, right?
Well, but these are meant to be like, they're cellular cameras, right? So they're meant to be connected. So they get the video there, but the thing is battery constraint. So there's always like little techniques. You don't want it to call home and start
Yeah.
engaging its radio if it's just going to murder the battery. So there's a whole whack of things. And just like when we talked about the offline with a phone, like if I would rather have the model locally, like barcode scanning,
Yeah.
right? I don't need to be online. Just scan me a barcode. Probably chances are you need to go through some sort of database with that barcode, but you can save it for later.
Yeah.
I still scanned it. Or a QR code that's going to open up a website, save me the typing, all that cool stuff. If it could do that online, that saves me money, saves the business money, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Whenever we talk about AI, you want it to be great for people, but you also want it to be foundationally safe for the company to spend money on it. So that's the trick right now. I don't think people realize that. They do a lot of AI. You got to be smart about it.
Yeah, it's not there's a reason to use it. It's not just because we need to put AI in it.
Just because, yeah, it's got to have AI.
Yeah.
That's how we get investors.
Yeah.
And then the investors are like, yeah, your AI is dumb now. Here's no more money. And you're like, well, we got to pull that feature real quick.
Yeah.
So that's some of the cool stuff. If anybody else is doing something cool with AI, let us know. Give us a topic there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We can talk more about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will, right? Because it's just like, again, we're kind of at the beginning of it, so we're only going to see more and more of it, and people figuring out better ways to apply it and that kind of thing. So,
like I said, the JavaScript hell of frameworks right now. Oh, it's brutal. It changes names every. Some of this Azure stuff has changed like monthly. I kid you not.
Yeah, it's hard.
Monthly.
It's hard to keep up, and hopefully that settles out sooner than later. Because it's really.
I have my doubts. I think we're still in for another year of this junk.
Oh yeah, I mean sooner than later. I mean, in 5 years, hopefully it's not still like it's been 5 more different things, but we'll see.
Yes.
So you mentioned going to the plugins, packages, and products. There's some new barcode scanners on the block.
Yes, your zebra crossing is sadly it's not the popular kid on the block anymore,
great.
but that's all right for you.
I'm very happy to let that torch be passed on to somebody else.
So there's 2 that I've used. There's one called barcode mobile.maui by an individual named Jimmy Pun. Hope I pronounced your name
Pun
right.
intended. Yep.
Oh, wow, dude. Wow. Okay. And well, this one you can make fun of because I couldn't find his real name, so it's his GitHub handle, which is probably part of his name, but we're not going to do it justice. But I'm going to let Jon pronounce it. So
a Frisick. That's how I would pronounce it.
A Frisick. Anyhow, it's called barcodescanning.native.maui. It also worked really well, and that one I know for sure was using a whole bunch of the Apple Vision.
So using the new
stuff.
APIs already. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
and it was working. They both worked pretty darn well. They unfortunately zebra crossing is done.
Yeah. Oh, great.
See,
zebra crossing is dead. Long live barcode scanning. It is A-okay with me.
That's
I started that thing so many years ago. I did that before I joined Xamarin. Before Xamarin was Xamarin, I started working on that problem space.
I was thinking about this because somehow you and I still always seem to work together way back in the beginning. Because you did a whole bunch of like native packages. And I'm like, this isn't cross-platform, dude.
Yeah.
And I'd somehow reap your controls. So ACR dialogues on both sides of the equation. Jon had written. I'm not going to remember the libraries. It's so long ago.
One I inherited was BT Progress HUD, which was Nick Wise's thing. And then I wrote and HUD.
That's right. And I ended up using both of them in user dialogue. So there's still people using them.
I still use those as my app today, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you don't use user dialogues.
I didn't because you didn't make it work on Windows.
No, sorry. Listen, I'm not allowed to make fun of Windows, so I won't go there, but there's reasons.
That's fair, but I wanted something that did.
But I also did it with because your barcode scanner was very also kind of cross-platform. I ended up making a nice service for that. That thing went like nuts, and both of our NuGet counts went up. Jon and I never talked back then. We didn't know each other, but we were driving downloads like mad in those days.
Yeah, no, that was
Back in the
fun
early
times.
Xamarin.
I remember trying to like port the Java stuff originally. I actually remember going and I went when it was at a Monkey Space conference in Boston, which is the first time I met like any of the Xamarin before Xamarin was a thing people. And I remember going and having lunch with Nat and Miguel and Joseph and others. Probably Chris Hardy was there too, and just talking about like what I was trying to do in the space. That was a fun time. Talking with Nat about how to do it, and he gave me some ideas for how to approach it and stuff. That was cool.
And there you go. And now all those things have been outgrown, but
Yeah.
Zebra Crossing gone, user dialogues, NHUD, and sorry, what was the other one? BT Progress HUD.
Yeah.
They live on.
They're still
People are
around.
still using it.
Yeah.
Those haven't gone away. I don't know. I wish they would, but they haven't. And long live barcode scanning.
Yeah.
Long live barcode scanning.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for today. You already mentioned, if you have ideas about, and especially AI stuff, because it's such a cool space, let us know. Maybe we have more show topics out of it. You can let us know by going to our website, gonemobile.io. You can catch us on things when we remember to post, and Alan's maybe better at remembering to post about them than I am. We're also now on YouTube. Finally, I think I can say that. I've been pushing those videos live. So another place to, you don't have to come and watch us, but it's another place to get the content, just to get it out there. More viewers, more listeners. Yeah,
you can come see our resting bee faces on YouTube.
That's right. You can see my messy desk behind me on YouTube. You can also like us there, like and subscribe. That's how the cool kids do it, right? So do that, and then after you like and subscribe, you can go to the Apple Podcast app or whatever other podcast app and give us the 5-star review. Unless that other podcast directory is out of 10 stars, and then you're going to want to go to 10 or 11. If you might want to turn it to all the way to 11 if it goes there.
I have no comment. I'm not helping you with this one.
All right,
you're slaying it, Jon.
Let's end it. Let's end it now. Bye everyone. See you next time.